What's up, world? This is your boy Kurtzy coming live to you from the Minneapolis St. Paul airport. So, last night was out here for LFA 56 covering the action with my boy Yusuf the Moroccan Devil Zalal. Shout out to Factory X. Also, shout out to JW Management, Professor Busy, Coach Mark Montoya, Devontae Kincaid Smith, Cleopatra Cat, Miss Yusuf's wife, Miss Zalal out there. So, thank you for everybody who made this weekend such an incredible experience. Pat Militich, Phoenix Carnival. I thank you guys, everything that you guys had going on for the broadcast. Those Christmas suits, absolutely killing it out there. I do want to throw a quick shout out also to Daniel Scary Carey. Last weekend we were out in Thackerville, Oklahoma, covering Bellator 210, some action packed MMA, mixed martial arts going on out there. We had a stacked card from the top to the bottom, prelims all the way through the main event, and then as well as on the post limbs, a lot of great action. So we'll start off from there, and then we'll follow through with a couple of other topics. Today was the Concord 45 release for the Jordans. This is episode number 45, so we'll give a little bit of a tie in there, as well as a little bit of preview action for the UFC show tonight. So without further ado, let's get ourselves underway. Last weekend at Bellator in Oklahoma, can't speak any higher volumes for the experience that the Bellator folks put on for us out there. Absolutely phenomenal. Got to meet a lot of great figures within the game as well. Shout out to the 135 champion TJ Dillashaw. No sooner than meeting and taking a photo op with TJ Dillashaw did double champ Mr. Daniel Cormier DC come up and come in the mix and have a brief little rendezvous there. Also bumped elbows with Stitch 'em Up Joe Schilling, the Big Pygmy Justin Wren, baddest man on the planet Joe Warren. Who else? There's so many names that I could rattle off right now. Gerald Harris, that was also huge. Jordan young killer out of American Top Team. That's going to be one of the biggest names from that Oklahoma card that I challenge everybody to do some research on and keep on your radar for someone going forward. He's undefeated. He's 10-0. He's not going away. He's going to be someone who's a problem in the future at 205 pounds for the foreseeable future. From the mud. Shout out Jordan Young. I also want to say shout out to Joe Stitch 'em Up Schilling. I've been a huge Joe Schilling fan for a long time, and finally having the opportunity. We ran into each other in the UFC Denver card when he was out there with Mickey Gall, Cowboy, Yair Rodriguez, everybody out there at the Marriott West, but just didn't have the opportunity to say hi or anything along those lines. Didn't have a chance to bump those elbows, but got to chat, got a picture op, everything this time, so that was awesome. He came away with the finish. I also want to throw a shout out once again to Coach Mark Montoya and Factory X. He was out there for Joe Warren, but also gave my boy Daniel Scary Carey out of Concord BJJ from Ada, Oklahoma, some work. That's also along with my man Cortez Coleman, the Crazy Cowboy. For those of you who don't know, Cortez Coleman is a very big name in the MMA world. He fought for everybody from Bellator to I believe into Strikeforce, was on the Ultimate Fighter. He's really been someone who's been a huge push for me to keep moving forward and being successful with what I've done here with comments from the Peanut Gallery. Always something that I look forward to whenever we have the chance to link up and create some magic. Also have a project that we're working on that's gonna hopefully make some big waves on the production side of things throughout 2019 into 2020. So macro perspective, micro focus. That's the name of the game that we have going right now. I felt really, really bad in that Bellator card watching in the Gerald Harris fight because they ruled the fight a draw, but I felt bad that they almost, in my opinion, that they took that away from Gerald. Gerald, his fight in July at the WinStar out there in Oklahoma did not go so favorably, but this one was one heck of a contest. Early on you could make the case that his opponent was getting the better of him, but 100% did Gerald finish that fight stronger. Not even a question. Two huge takedowns in the last couple of minutes of the fight, as well as one that pretty much should have sealed it up as the bell was ringing. didn't go his way, unfortunately. That's the business. Moving forward into this week, LFA 56 out here in Minneapolis, where the future is now. LFA, that was absolutely a great card. We saw some star power. Glover Teixeira was here. Neil Magny was here. Austin Hubbard from Team Elevation out of Denver. He took the LFA 155 crown last night. Phenomenal war. That fight went almost the entire distance. He wore some damage. He weathered the storm in the beginning portion of the fight. It was at the beginning. You thought there's only so many of these thunderous shots that he could take from his opponent. Everything that his opponent was throwing was with bad intentions. And he, in the beginning, his head was still kind of on the center line, definitely wore some damage. But after you got to about midway through the second round, you noticed a distinct shift of the momentum at that point. His opponent started to gas from there. That's when it started to you started to see Austin take over. Now, that being said, I do believe that there were a couple of opportunities earlier on in the fight where he could have finished the contest. I feel like there were moments in the third, fourth, and earlier on in the fifth where he could have put him away. Where I find, I also chatting with a couple of other folks, they thought, well, he probably executed the game plan to perfection, wearing him out into deep water, and then finally finishing him once you got to that point. Yes and no, because there were those opportunities where he definitely could have finished, and with someone who was throwing heavy, was throwing heavy hands with bad intentions the way that he was, you basically at that point, that's a wounded animal that you've backed into a corner, and he's going to do anything that he can. He's throwing desperation shots. If you leave yourself in the opportunity to get clipped, then we've seen it happen before in the past. Guys that have been ahead, and they let somebody who has that sort of power kind of stay around, stay around, stay around. You saw this example last week in boxing with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. There's always a chance when you have that sort of power, no matter what. Moving on from there, I want to go on to my man Yusuf, the Moroccan Devil's Law. Yusuf is absolutely a life-changing influence and factor in my life. I would not be here sitting doing this broadcast or this podcast, whatever you want to talk about it right now, if it were not for this young man. He is 22 years old. He's undefeated. He's finished every fight. And he just has an extra special factor about him. He has the charisma, he has the style, he has the flash. He's a complete package. He's a complete MMA fighter. He's a striking specialist by nature in his background. However, 5 of his 6 wins by finish have all been by submission. So what does that tell you? That tells you that he has a well-rounded game plan. Shout out to Coach Mark Montoya for the programming, as well as to Professor Busy on the jiu-jitsu side. And also want to tip my hat to everybody at Landau Performance for making sure that the strength and conditioning side is shored up. It's all put together, and naturally I have to say that home life is an influence as well. His wife Kat, I can't speak enough volumes for her. She's an incredibly intelligent and talented woman herself, and that is only something that, in my opinion, can benefit Yusuf being a young and up and coming star the way that he is. And I can't make the saying behind every great man stands a great woman, because if Kat heard me say that, she would probably have my head on a stick. So I will say, beside every great man is a great woman. Looking out for you, Kat. I also want to thank Jim Walter. Thank you, Jim, for all the opportunities throughout the weekend. It was a phenomenal experience being able to be there for Shakeout, everything in the mix. The sponsorship opportunities for those of you who get the chance to watch the fight and get to see Yusuf compete. The comments from the Peanut Gallery logo was right there on the front of the shorts this go round on the red too. Gotta love that it was on red right next to the JW Management logo. LFA, where the future is now is what their slogan is, and I really do believe it. LFA is basically, for those of you out there who don't know, it's a merger of a couple of different promotions from in the past that saw some of the biggest names that begun to rise themselves through the rankings in the MMA world. That was RFA Resurrection Fighting Alliance to Legacy Fights. That was basically a merger between the two of them, and that you had guys like Gilbert Smith, former UFC vet and was on Tough. That was he came from RFA's. Basically, he calls himself the RFA King. Then from tonight's card on the UFC side, you had Bullet Valentina Shevchenko. She's an LFA vet. You had Brian Ortega. You had Eric Anders. You have a lot of people who came from this promotion that have now, they're who you're watching on these big cards. Not to mention to have the broadcast crew that they have. You have Phoenix Carnivale, who is absolutely amazing. You also have a former world champion in Pat Miletich. Last night they were in full Christmas garb. I can't lie; those Christmas suits were fantastic. It was it was probably not the most fun thing for them to wear, but you know what? I gotta say, it was it was awesome. I like being able to watch that way. To move on to the next point, I don't know what's next exactly for Yusuf, and I don't want to speak on behalf of him, but I know that he has his eyes set on big things. It's either gold, whether it be in LFA coming up. There's a January card that's going to be back in Denver, or there is also naturally there's a potential that the big dance is going to call. I know that his goal is to be a UFC world champion, and in time, I do believe that he can achieve that. He's that young, he's that talented, he's that disciplined, that dedicated, and that gifted. All of those things paired with the right circle of support, it's it's only a recipe for success. I also, like I say, I want to really shout out to Jim Walter. Jim, thank you very much for everything that you've done for me as well as this project. It's been something that has been, it's pivotal. I couldn't do what I've done. I can't make the moves that I make without you. Thank you very much, Jim. Everything from ticketing to making sure that logo placement stuff is taken care of, helping me just showcase the work and the content that I've gathered. It all means so much. Like every little bit of it helps. So thank you, Jim. Really do appreciate it. Yesterday, and there's gonna be some footage that comes out from it. And if you follow Yusuf or anyone from the camp that was there this last weekend, we took ginger and turmeric shots. Never had that before, directly. Aside from having those, mixed in other smoothies. By the way, if you ever get the chance to meet Yusuf, ask him about smoothies. But the reaction from that alone was priceless. That was almost worth the trip alone right there. Seeing the way that Ten Toes took the shot, or seeing the way that Yusuf did was amazing. Ten Toes. When I say Ten Toes, that references Devontae, King Cage Smith, Johnny Cage. I can't laugh enough at that. I went to a little mom and pop place for breakfast yesterday, and I had to have the authentic inland Minnesota experience. So I got the chicken fried steak and eggs. Didn't disappoint. It was very good. But right next to me, my man Devontae, he orders, he gets his French toast and then he has his cheese eggs. And then I've never seen anybody just straight up dump and pour syrup right over their eggs. We had a conversation about that. I could not stop laughing the entire time. Like, bro, what are you doing? Like, I can understand the rationale. See, I'll give you, just to back it up, the explanation as to why he put the syrup on the eggs. So he said, when you have everything all together on the same plate, the stuff starts to run together. Yes, that's correct. I do understand that. If you had eggs on the same plate as your French toast and you poured a bunch of syrup over your French toast, there's a chance that the syrup's going to run over to your eggs. Get it? Bruh, you had two separate dishes. They were completely separate on two separate plates, and then I look over and you just start dumping it on your eggs. Couldn't understand that, but it made for a good laugh. And then at breakfast as well, if you saw from the comments from the Peanut Gallery Instagram story from yesterday, Kat, Yusuf's wife, is an absolutely phenomenal artist. Like, real deal. Can't even bullshit that. We're sitting at the table. She has a little ink pen doodling on napkins and is drawing food. You know, like wow, that's good. You know, we all know that she can draw, but just seeing it right there, right in front of us, like boom, 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 absolutely incredible. She says, "I need some inspiration. What do you guys want me to draw? I usually just draw food." Ten Toes, he says, "Draw a dog with a bird on its head." She then draws basically like a pointer style dog with a pheasant up top on its head. Like very, very artistic level shit on a napkin in 5 minutes. Next thing, oh, draw a horse. Well, draws a horse full, full front view of a horse from head all the way down to legs, everything. Like, I don't, I wish that I had that sort of creative capability to just sit there and, okay, you tell me this, you tell me this, you tell me this, and I'm going to put it all pen to paper. Incredible. Now, to give you a little bit of a rundown on tonight's card, that way we don't keep this too long for you. UFC 231, or excuse me, yeah, UFC 231 tonight in Toronto. That's going to be the main event is Brian T. City Ortega against Max Blessed Holloway, followed by the co-main event of Joanna J.J. Jacek and Valentina Bullet Shevchenko. The whole card is stacked, though, people. From top to bottom in the prelims, you have Matt Lopez. Then you have in the FS1 prelims, past the fight pass, you have Eric Anders, who's fighting on their former Alabama linebacker, who you saw in his last fight an absolute war with Thiago Santos, who is also on the main card. How can you not want to tune into this card tonight if you're a fight fan? That's all I have to say. It's a great show from top to bottom. You have people like Jessica I. Shout out to the Turp House. She's also going to be on the prelims. Claudia Gadeja. There's a lot of talent that's going to be showcased tonight. Then once we move along to the main card, I think that there's the dark horse fight of the night and potential fight of the night candidate could be Hakeem and Kyle Bochniak. Kyle Bochniak puts on a show, in my opinion. His fight with Brandon Davis was good. Even though I thought that Brandon got the better, but his last fight, that was an absolute war. He sat there and traded punches the entire time, all the way through the end. Even through the bloody carnage of the mat, of the fight in the pocket, just sitting there, throwing his tongue out, shaking his head, all that. Absolute savage. I want to see that guy fight again. That was a great show that he put on. We see the return of Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar looks like he was carved out of stone for this fight and all the media ops this week, so be on the lookout. I don't want to scream anything that rhymes with USADA or nothing, but definitely something to look out for. But Gunnar, I know a lot of people have been waiting for his return. Shout out to John Feehan. He's a big Gunnar Nelson fan out there, one of the friends of the show. I think, though, once we start talking about main event action and main and co-main event, we're really going to see a technical fight between Valentina and Joanna. I made a typo earlier this week in my tweet about the fight. It's 3 times that Valentina has beaten Joanna, not 2, in Muay Thai. So all that boogie woman shit, all of the trying to use the hype, get in her face, all that doesn't work for Valentina. Because Valentina already has that edge. The mystique is gone. She knows what she brings to the table. I think that 125 is overall, it's probably going to be a better weight for Joanna right now, just because she was having so much trouble getting down to 115. But that's where I also think that it's going to be a benefit for Valentina, because Valentina looks very good at 125. And that much of a natural size advantage, even though people say, oh, they look very close in the weigh-in pictures or in ceremonial face-offs, all of that this week. Yeah, they may look they may look similar in size, but overall, Valentina is a much bigger woman in that regard, and she's without a question stronger physically. So once they start to get into the clinch, she puts her up against the cage. She starts putting body weight on her. I look to see, I feel like that's going to wear down the pace of Joanna. Joanna's a very busy fighter. Joanna likes to score a lot. She's going to throw a heavy volume. I would compare Joanna's move up from 115 to 125, something similar to the way that Rafael dos Anjos did when once he went from 155 to 170. When he made that trip from 155 to 170, you saw an increase in volume. You saw him start to attack the leg a lot more, and really going after those point style scoring tactics. I feel like that might be the same exact strategy that we see this time from Joanna going up to fight Valentina, as long as she can keep the distance, if she can keep her off of her. If she can't keep the distance and this goes into the clinch, then it's going to be a long night for Joanna, in my opinion, especially if they go to the ground. Joanna is not comfortable on the ground against somebody like Valentina. Valentina is way too good down there, way too comfortable. So I look for Valentina to come away with gold around her waist. She's been waiting for a long time. The fight with Nico Montano fell through. Then there was supposed to be the fight with Sajara Eubanks. That was the UFC controversy from a couple of weeks ago. From that was supposed to be at Madison Square Garden. I'm just glad that she's finally getting the opportunity to have another shot at gold, because call it for what it is. Those fights against Nunes for the 135 strap, those were those were close contests, very, very close contests. She let the points match beat her though. If she was a little bit more aggressive, she probably wins that fight. You can't try to outpoint a champion, in my opinion, and let it go to the cards unless it's 100% definitive. You had to do something that can justify taking a belt away if you go to the cards. Then, if we move along to the main event, that's going to be Max Holloway against Brian Ortega. What's kind of crazy is that Max is being thought of as the underdog in a lot of ways. Max is the younger fighter, yet he's the champion, which is kind of crazy because everybody's labeling T City as the next big thing. This is one of the toughest matchups on paper. This is arguably the best 145 matchup that the division has ever had in the history of the sport. I'm just going to say it like that. This has that sort of potential. You have the guy who has not been taken down in more than 9 fights. I believe it was the Conor McGregor fight 9 fights ago, with the last time that Max Holloway was taken down. He also has the 8th most significant strikes per minute in UFC history. And on top of that, you pair that with one of the longest winning streaks that's active right now. Hard to say that he is in any way not the favorite outside of the health issues that he's had. Well documented, well displayed, from albeit from the foot injury at the beginning of last year to then the whatever it is, because it's never been officially identified, from the Khabib to the Ortega fight first go round. Whether that was concussion like symptoms, whether that was complications from weight cut, that still hasn't been officially mentioned, or there's been no true word on what that actually is that they've said. And that was something that Brian Ortega kept on hitting through all the different media outlets throughout the week. Is I really do want to look out for the well-being, all bullshit aside, because they are fighting. But what happened? Like, there's still no explanation as to why or what it exactly was. But we do know that obviously there was something, which that's troubling. If they, either one, they can identify it, or two, they won't tell us. Either way, a little bit of a cause for concern, especially in a high level title fight against someone that is as dangerous as Brian. Now, Brian's been touched up a couple of times. If you guys go back and look at the Moicano fight, or if you look at the Clay Guida fight, he definitely had hands get to him a little bit. He got touched up before he ended up going on to win and finish off those fights. Not a surprise there that his boxing naturally improved. His jiu-jitsu is as razor sharp as it can get. He is as lineal Gracie jiu-jitsu as you could possibly be, coming straight off the mats with Henner himself. You see the way that his stand-up has improved in fights, just like his last fight with Frankie. you'd have never thought that Frankie Edgar was going to get knocked out by a jiu-jitsu specialist. But Brian's boxing is now it's nothing flashy, but it's fundamentally sound and he's crisp. He's very tight with his movement, not going to give you a whole lot of extra, something that you can exploit or take advantage of. I think that if this stays on the feet, it's going to be a finish of some sort, one way or the other. They're going to finish each other. They're just, it's that type of fight. It's not going to go all 5 rounds. I'm calling that right now, one way or the other. Then if we go to the ground, yes, Max's ground game is underrated. However, T City is arguably the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in all of MMA right now. Definitely, in my opinion, the best in the 145 division. So if he even remotely leaves a fraction of a limb out there, or leaves his neck open, I think that T City takes it. I think that it might be T City's time to shine right now. He's got a lot of stuff working in his favor. I don't know. It's such a tough matchup to call, and I'm a huge fan of both of these guys. That I don't know if I can call it either one, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give it to Blessed. I'm gonna say that it's that the champion continues to reign. It's gonna be an and still situation. How about Mini Blessed? For everyone who doesn't know out there, Mini Blessed, Max Holloway's kid, he steals the show everywhere that they go. They went to the Bruno Mars concert. He ends up stealing the show because this kid is just dancing, having a good time, living his best life all over the place. Open workouts the other day, everything stops around him, and they bring him out on the mat just to start dancing because he's that entertaining. So shout out to Mini Blessed as well. I think that it's going to be a good show overall. Everything on the UFC card tonight is put into a position to where it's going to give the fans what they want. It's the second to the last card of the year. We're going to see 232 following up at the end of the year. That's going to be headlined by John Bones Jones as well as Cyborg. So looking forward to that coming in the next few weeks. The last topic that I want to chat with you folks here today was the release of the iconic Air Jordan Concords. For those of you who don't know, those are the white and black Air Jordans, the 11th edition, the ones that have the purple on the bottom. That's where the name Concord comes, the Concord grapes. This was a huge release, or a huge shoe back in the day, because this is when Jordan made his return in. These were also the shoe that are on this re-release of this retro. This came out with the 45 printed on the back of the heel. Now, some people were upset with this. Some people loved it. I think if you're trying to recapture that moment of what that was, in that year of that shoe that came back, then 45 is what you want. But I guess it's all a matter of the collector and who's trying to pick them up. The one thing that I do have a problem with the sneaker game as a whole, and with brands like Jordan, who continue to repackage and resell the same stuff over and over, is that there has been a noticeable drop off in the quality of the production. Naturally, my name is Jordan. I have a lot of Air Jordan shoes. I have the Jumpman logo as a tattoo, for that matter. I've had a lot of Jordan products throughout my life. The apparel still has maintained a high level of qualitative integrity. However, the footwear, or the shoes, the signature shoes, not even remotely close to what they once used to be. I'm old enough to where I have had a lot of original generation Jordan sneakers. You're talking differences of metal accents and rivets to plastic now, lace tips going from plastic to going from metal to plastic, stitching going from double reinforced to just basically a single thread in some portions. Qualitatively, not even in the same ballpark, like I say. So that's where I have a problem, that now you're charging damn near double what they were when they first came out for half the product. That's why I can't really get behind the sneaker craze or buying a whole lot anymore. Yes, I do still wear them, and I still wear J's almost every day, but I'm not going out every other weekend, or few weeks when they have new drops and new releases and picking those up. Just can't do it anymore. That's just me, but that's the way the cookie crumbles there. So as we just kind of start to transition out, just want to say thank you everybody out there who has followed along and been a supporter of the Comments from the Peanut Gallery podcast and everything that we do, whether it's from the online shop to just in general saying what's up or showing some love, sharing the posts. Thank you all out there who are behind the movement. Every little bit helps. I want to throw a shout out to Beyond Bridges Music as well as to Lion League Music. Shout out to Joey, my man Suave. He's killing it on the production game right now. Everything from the visuals to the boards. My man, you're doing it. I can't wait to see your projects continue to blow up. And just once again, want to recap and throw a shout out to the Factory X team as well as JW Management, the Terp House. I want to throw a shout out to my man Austin Jones as well. He helped me out with some product and making sure that my body is staying in a good state with recovery and everything along those lines too. So thank you everybody who has been along, and that's going to do it for us today.